for any woman who's in this place that she's looking at her horse thinking, how did all this happen? Am I going to be confident enough to get back on you and ride? What is that going to take? Do I forgive you? Do I forgive me?
Hi, everyone. I'm your host, Dr. Shafer of Talks with Dr. Shafer. I'm so glad you're here. I'm a mom, physician, coach, musician, author, publisher, and I am passionate about helping others reclaim their stories so they can build their most beautiful life. And today we have an inspiring guest on the show who has done just that. Alicia VanderGriend is the founder of Cowgirl Life Company and the Cowgirl Coach, a certified yoga instructor, mindset coach, and project management professional with a master's degree in marine biodiversity. Pivoting from a career in marine energy project management, Alicia felt called to found Cowgirl Life Company and the Cowgirl Coach, where she helps horsewomen who are done letting their 9-to-5 steal their riding time launch a purpose-built business. What a cool way to live your passion. What inspired you before this pivot, Alicia, to become a marine biologist? Thank you so much for being on the show. Tell me more about what it means to be a horsewoman and why you felt so called to pivot in this way to create Cowgirl Life Company and the Cowgirl Coach.
Yeah. So I think I've taken a couple of pivots along the way throughout my career. Like I haven't been one person who was like, I'm gonna just have this one career and like do this. Like I've always thought of myself as somebody's like wanting to do many things and like how many things can I actually do? And like I think now that I'm approaching 50, I'm starting to like slow down a little bit with that. Like I feel like I've lived a pretty full life already. So I think one of the things that kind of brought me specific to this pivot right now in where I'm at in my career is I've been a project manager for like 25 years. Like I've been project manager of environmental remediation. I have done marine energy projects. Like I've done computer, AI, technology, all kinds of different projects with project management. It's been totally fascinating, amazing, and has really kind of helped me through each of the pivots because project management is it's just part of everything that you do when you're building stuff and making things and being innovative. And so it's just been such a fun career to have and very fitting for me. So my latest thing that I was like doing is marine biology. And when I was a little kid, I loved whales. Like I loved horses and I loved whales and big, large marine mammals. But I lived in New Mexico. There's no ocean, no opportunity to see them. And so finally, in my early 30s, I had moved to San Diego and I just decided I'm going to leave project management for a little bit. I'm going to get a master's degree in marine biodiversity and I'm just going to I'm going to do the dream career of being a marine biologist. And so the last 11 years, that's what I've done is chase whales. And so during that time, so as this time as a project manager, I'm being a researcher. I'm helping researchers. I'm managing projects. We're bringing in millions of dollars. So it's like all of these brilliant ideas you just like are constantly like writing down as you're researching, right? Like, 'cause it's just inspiring. Like as a scientist, as a researcher, that's your job is to innovate. And so you're always writing ideas. You're always thinking about the next thing. And then sometimes you get to write proposals on this and you get to win millions of dollars. And it's so freaking fun. Like that part is so fun, right? Like just like I got millions of dollars and I get to do this project and we're going to do all these things. We're going to write these papers. We're going to go here and here. So that's been my life for like the last 10 years. And it's super competitive and it's so stressful. And there's so many deadlines. And then once you win the money, you have to do the work. So you have to hire the people and get the teams together. And like, it's such a fun experience. But then at the same time, the level of competition just just the panic that can happen when you have different administrations with different viewpoints on like the research areas that you are in start to change. And so when the money starts to dry up because this isn't of interest to certain groups or governments, then it gets extremely difficult for those people who have spent years loving what they're doing. And so my pivot came at a time when we just had an administration change that was not very whale friendly. um, or I would just say renewable energy friendly in general, because most of my work was like with marine renewables. So it's like, what the heck am I going to do? And I broke my leg last year stepping off a horse. And then I had my husband just like go put out, because I also teach yoga. And so I just had him like put my yoga mat out by the horses, and I crutched out there and I sat down on my mat and I just turned my video on and I was like, you know what, I'm going to document and just share my journey and call it the Broken Leg Diary and put it on YouTube. And, you know, for any woman who's in this place that she's looking at her horse thinking, how did all this happen? You know, like, why am I here? Like, am I going to be confident enough to get back on you and ride? What is that going to take? Do I forgive you? Do I forgive me? Like, you know, we went through this whole situation together. And so then I was like, this is the thing I actually want to do next, is go back to my roots, because I've been a horsewoman my whole life, and just get back to my roots and really create a dream business that is fun, that is giving value to people, that I can actually tangibly see and like people want. And so I think that was the part that was like so hard with the research, is because you don't tangibly see if you're helping whales. And so that was like one part. I was like, I really want to have fun and I really want to see some results, because I'm a super driven person. And so now I get to create this really beautiful coaching company with some beautiful women clients that are just literally have these really big, bold ideas, and they've been kind of knocking them around in their head, neuroscience, and just like, how do I get it from my head and just like into a structure and plan that actually will take me to the level so that I can generate money, so I don't have to feel scared about losing my horse and all these things. And it's super fun to go there.
And I love how it's interesting to me, because we understand from a neuroscience perspective, from a habit building perspective, right?
Mm-hmm.
We need a framework. We also need data. We need to see ourselves somewhere. We need to see that we can. And when we're starting something new or something that makes us nervous, that we're dreaming about, but we can't visualize ourselves doing it, it's really hard to get there. And so I have this idea, when I was just so intrigued by you, I found you doom scrolling, because I love a good doom scroll. I actually have a tagline for my podcast that says, stop doom scrolling and listening to a podcast. But I will tell you, my guilty pleasure is to search for inspiring people on Instagram. My feed is so beautiful. And I found you. And the thing I loved was, okay, so if you're a horsewoman, if you love horses, if you're an equine enthusiast, if you will,
Yeah.
you have had to have structure. You have had to have passion. You have shown yourself that you can do this thing that many people would maybe even be afraid of, nervous about, right? Like, you've done training, you've put in hours and hours of learning how to do that activity, how to connect with a creature that is bigger, stronger than you, that you can't communicate with on a, human level in some ways, although you may argue with me, no, we got great communication, but it's different, right? It's not,
Yes.
it's not natural and intuitive. And so it's something that you had to learn. And so I love this concept of saying, we already know you're a horsewoman. Like, we already know you can do big, scary, cool things, that there was a time in your life where you probably couldn't imagine that you'd be up high on this horse doing these things. So let's take that data and give you a framework, and then help really just help shoot you forward on your path to what your goal is. So I love using that as a framework and helping women who are inspired by your program to feel empowered to take the steps that they really want to.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And when you come into any program that I have, the first thing I literally do is mindset exercises. Like you have to come up, well, I'm not gonna say have to. You come up with a set of mantras, and it's like not mantras that you are repeating to yourself. It is self-recorded sentences of envisioning that life that you are bringing in. And so it's just literally sitting down. What are like 50 of my most like inspiring sentences that I could make about my life and where I'm going? So is it 3 years? Is it 5 years? Is it next week? Is it like, what are these things that are so beautiful? And you're going to listen to that every single day, as many times a day as you possibly can. And this isn't something that I'm making up, that like, this is something unique to my program. Like literally, like if you have the book Science of Getting Rich by Wallace Waddles, or you listen to Bob Proctor, or you like Neville Goddard, like all of these people are telling you how to have the life that you love and the happiness that you want and the fulfillment and the riches and like everything you want. All these people have already talked about it, but I think people don't really understand how to do it until they do it. And then they need a coach. They need an accountability partner to do it. So my coaches, I do this with my coaches. I stay in touch, with what I want, because my coaches are encouraging me to do it. And so the more you cheer each other on, the more you do it. And I think there's also that part, which is so, so important. It's like you have to do this with other people. Like you can't build the things that you want to build alone. But it all has to start here, because like you already know, the most powerful voice in the entire world is your own voice. And it's like when you get to hear your own voice telling you your dream, like there's nothing more powerful than that.
Mm. I love that so much. And I really speak to that. For me, years ago when I pivoted in my career, what I did was I called a bubble sheet. I made a sheet that had all of the things that I wanted to do and how they were all connected. I didn't know the exact timing. I didn't know how exactly I was going to get there, but I knew what I wanted, right? And if I could see it, I could be it, and I could take those steps. And just recently, I started a local media company. And it was so funny because I was speaking to my partner about it. And I said to him, what's really funny? I actually wrote this down on a piece of paper 2.5 years ago that this was going to happen. And here we are. And when it happened, it seemed so like serendipitous because we didn't know each other then, right? Who would have known? But it wasn't serendipitous because I knew what I wanted. My focus, my vision was ready to see those opportunities. And if I didn't know what I wanted, I wouldn't see the opportunities in front of me. I'd be looking for old, things that would have maybe served an older version of me that no longer sparked me. And that makes me think about your sparkle challenge. So what's a sparkle challenge? Like, how can you kind of find these sparks and challenge yourself then to move towards kind of fanning those flames and making them grow?
Yeah, so the Spark Challenge is just a play on words. I like my program is called Cowgirl Ignite, and so it's really taking like your big idea and just like blowing it up, like making it just the best thing ever. And so in order to like connect with me, I have spark calls where we spark the ignition, right? Because the first part of the flame is you got to spark it. And so um, one thing that I wanted to do as a fun thing with my audience on social media is to have a challenge around the spark. So I call it the Spark Challenge. They got this opportunity to win some really cool prizes, and I got to meet more of the horsewomen. I got to have some amazing You can also call it a discovery call, and you just get to talk to women about what challenges they're having, where they are right now, and just like the other part of the Spark Challenge is really talking about the things that are getting them excited in life. And I can tell you, when I ask this question about what excites you most right now in your life, like all of them, I can't think of one person that could answer that easily. Like they're all just like, have to really think about that. And we're not asking each other that. Like everything is just like doom, right? And I think that's part of the call. And so many people that leave the call come back to me and they're like, I'm going to implement this thing that you've said, or I'm going to start doing this. Because another part of the Spark call is I have this like little wand. I'm giving away the juice right now. But I have a little wand here, and if I have this magic wand, and we could have your next 90 days looking like anything that you could dream of, what is that going to look like? And we just wave this wand and start building that. And so that's what the Spark Challenge is and where it leads to. And it's just been, I'm going to do it again because it's super fun.
It is really fun. I love that. And it really resonated with experience I've had. By the way, so in residency as a neurologist, as a neurology resident, I remember I did have, I had a doctor that I worked with who actually would bring in a wand and do that. Which you can't fix neurological diseases that way. It's just, like, that would be really cool, very Harry Potter-esque, but that's not really how that works. But I think it can, you can take it sarcastically, which of course you'd never want to do. Or you could say, this is your goal. Okay. I just gave you a little bit of magic. I just gave you a spark. Let's work towards that. Right. We can't necessarily cure you, but maybe we can start to reframe things and think about what are our goals?
Yes.
And how can we get there? Right.
Yes.
How can we get you to living a life? I had a wonderful guest on the show recently who has several autoimmune disorders. And she was talking about, because she has a chronic health condition, a chronic health disorder, a multitude of them, that she, by definition, she's a scientist as well, by definition is unhealthy. And she understood, oh my goodness, well, I don't accept that. And I need to redefine what health is, because I don't accept that from now, because she was in her 20s when things really were coming to a head for her, or I think she was around 20. And she said, I'm not living the rest of my life, however long that will be, saying I am unhealthy. I'm going to live a healthy life from the perspective of the body and the person that I am, and build from that. And she's done that. And I love how you help people find that spark and ignite it. And you mentioned how we do need coaches. I'm very passionate about coaching. I'm a coach myself, Jay Shetty certified. And coaching is so different from being a physician, from doctoring in that way. It's such a different skill set. And I think we often, especially if we don't see the spark in ourselves, if we can't answer the question that you posed earlier a few minutes ago, if we can't answer that, we're not necessarily surrounding ourselves with people who are asking those questions, right? Like minds, right? And we might even be surrounding ourselves with what Brene Brown calls candle blower outers, like they're snuffing our spark because they don't believe in themselves enough to have that spark. So when they see it in us, they may say, ooh, those sparks are dangerous, and snuff it out, because from their perspective, that's how they feel. But a coach can bring a different perspective into your life. If you can't think of what's good, like what's good, what are you excited about? If you don't have an answer to that question, you need some fertilizer in your life. You need an igniter, like a coach. So I love that. And I want to ask you, because I know you're asking people this question all the time, what's exciting in your life?
Oh my gosh, I have so many things to be grateful for. I think I'm most excited. Like literally everything that I ever wanted as a little girl, like is happening right now. Like I have horses. I walk out of my house. They live right here. I look out my window and I see them, and like they live here. And I get to ride my horses on my property. We just recently built an arena here, and I'm married to an incredible man. Like he's my best friend. He's just everything, and like he's so kind and just, I don't know, just like the perfect person for me. And we have 3 dogs, we have bees, and like we live in this cute little rural town, and like you walk a mile down our road and there's the Strait of Juan de Fuca, and like there's the Olympic mountain range is like right here. And it's just like you're looking at at everything that you like ever wanted as a little girl. It's kind of like the list you're just talking about. It's not serendipitous. These are like the things that I have programmed since I was little. And I had to go through a lot of things, a lot of challenges. And then finally, like, I started, like, once I kind of left my hometown and, like, once I fully moved to San Diego, I knew I was never going back to New Mexico. Like, that was never a thing for me. And the moment I made that very, very distinct like boundary in my life, like from here it's different, and this is like my 30s, right? And from now it's different, and it has been. Like I have completely revamped my life in ways that like I would have never been able to dream about as a little kid. But your dreams don't always happen succinctly, right? Like they're the things that you're calling out, of the things that you just so want when you are so excited about them. You have no idea when they're going to happen. But if you like keep motoring in the same circles, you keep doing the same thing, you're going to get the same results. And if you don't have a clear path, any path is going to take you to anywhere, right? And so it's like you really have to envision those things you want. And so now what I'm excited about is I get to envision the next part. And so I turned 48 this year, and I have a big goal, but by the time I'm 55, I would love to have $20 million in the bank. I don't know how it's going to happen. That's like one goal. Like, I think it would be really amazing to have created something so cool and generated so much money and encouraged so many other women to generate money so that they can have the horse life that they want, so they can have the travel that they want, so they can, build amazing businesses helping other people. And so I'm so excited about just, even if I don't make it to that goal, it's okay. But it's like, what is something so big and so scary and seems so unachievable? Like, I might as well just throw it out there and just like play with it, because you never really know, right?
I love that. I love that. And I think most of us who have really started this practice have had this shared experience of once you say something, it's a lot less scary. It's way scarier in the recesses of your mind when you're alone with that thought and that
Yeah.
goal. Once you let it get some air, it's kind of like, well, that wasn't that hard to say. And then once you say, I'm going to do that, you say, well, I mean, I guess it's not impossible. Do other people do it? Okay, other people do it. Well, how do they do it? Okay. Well, what framework can I incorporate into my life that aligns with my ethics and my goals that can get me in that spot? And so again, once you say it and you see it, you can actually envision yourself working towards it and becoming. And I love your goal, and I love how you're helping other people work towards that. Is there anything that you would tell yourself, let's say when you turned 40? I feel like 40 is such a pivotal age.
Yeah.
Is there anything you would tell 40-year-old Alicia now that you didn't know or believe about yourself and your future then? What would you go back and tell yourself to empower yourself?
Yeah, I would definitely tell her about perimenopause, and that she needs to read up on it, and she needs to study it and be more prepared for it. I would also encourage her to keep up her workout routine, because it's going to pay off. But it seems sometimes, some days seem hard, but just keep doing it, because it just gets harder. Um, so, but as far as like encouragement of like going back and just being like, you did it. One of the things, so I was making 6 figures a year as a project manager. And when I left to go get my marine biology degree, when in the master's program at Scripps, I sat down with professors, and they're like, you're older. Like, why are you doing this? Why are you leaving a job like this? You have insurance and a 401k, and like you make 6 figures. Like, what the heck? Why are you like going into a year-long master's program for this? I'm like, because I was a little girl that wanted to do this, and I think it'd be so fun. And like, I have 2 dogs and me, and I'm not married, and I'm just like single, and I don't want a relationship, and instead I want this. And so they're just looking at me, and they're like, well, we're just going to be very upfront with you. You are never going to make the amount of money that you make right now. Like, you will never, ever, ever make what you're making now. And so just be prepared that your salary will never be what you're making now. So like, if you go down this road, I was like, okay, interesting, right? So I went through the program, and guess what happened? I ended up making 60,000 more than what I left making. So it's like almost like, anyways, it's so much more money than I had ever imagined making. And yeah, so I was making a lot more money, and getting to do really cool projects. And these projects I really loved, because they were things that were coming from me. Like, they were literally my research projects getting to become into fruition for like millions of dollars. And like, I don't know, it was just such an amazing time period. So I just go back and tell her that you are going to make the money, you are going to study all the whales, and you are going to have an amazing life as a marine biologist and meet some of the most wonderful people all around the world, and get to travel to the most remote, crazy places, and just have a wonderful life.
I love that story. And I love what happens when you tell a smart, courageous woman what she can't do. That's like, talk about a spark.
I don't know if we have lots of things going on. I think one of the things is like just having people connect with me during a spark call. So like, if anybody feels like really inspired to learn more about my coaching business, like, I love talking to horsewomen. So literally, like, if anybody is just like, I'm game, like, I want to learn more, then I would say connect. And then there's always stuff going on my Facebook page. So I bring other people in, and we, like, on Thursday, there is a lady who does like telehealth for your horse. And she's going to do a session of like energy work on one of my horses live on Facebook. So I'm so excited to work with her. And she's in Canada, and I'm in Washington. So this is like going to be really fun. A fun talk. And then I have another colleague who offered to do a workshop for horsewomen in perimenopause. And so she's gonna come in and just talk about like, how do you travel and how do you do all the things that horsewomen like to do, and also deal with being in perimenopause. So
Yeah, I'm there with you. Yeah, no matter what it is that you love, being in perimenopause is it's an added layer of complexity. And it's interesting because it hits at a time in life where I think like we're kind of getting our groove back, and we're reclaiming our energy, reclaiming our lives. And then it's like, pow, your health sends you this little extra stressor that you have to navigate on top of a lot of people reclaiming their stories as you have. I want to hit on something that you mentioned that I think is interesting. So I'm a physician, of course, I'm a neurologist, and we hear a lot about things like energy. And I think a lot of doctors and very scientifically minded people, which you are as well from your career as you started in marine biodiversity, right? We it's really easy to kind of think of that as, oh, what is that? Or it's kind of, I hate this term, but kind of woo woo. But we all also know what it feels like to be around energy. And we all understand, I think, just from the way our body feels, that our energy radiates out from us, right? We're not confined to our bodies, and our energy does touch things around us. That's why we like to be around certain people. And there are other people, they don't have to say a word, but we feel that energy. So I think it's interesting you talked about working with a horse's energy, and maybe is that a way that you can communicate and connect with a horse in ways that you can't verbally?
Yeah, I mean, I am not a horse energy specialist. And so the lady who's coming on is going to demonstrate her method of how she does healing with cows and livestock and horses. But energetically, yes, like horses, like they communicate through their behavior, they communicate with body language, and um, they definitely like it's like the slightest little thing that they do, but they can tell each other so much, and they can read you the minute you show up to the gate. They're already looking at your body language and like how that is. And I guess like one thing, I don't know, when I was like in my early 20s, after I graduated from college, I was hanging out with some colleagues, and one of my friend's husband, he's also a scientist because we're all nerds, and and he said the thing about physics is that energy is never created and it never ceases. Like that is a law of energy. That's an energetic law. And so like even if you think about like our bodies are energy, our hearts are pumping, our neurons are exchanging electrons, like all of these things are happening all the time inside our body. Same with like photosynthesis in a plant, same with like our breathing and metabolism and horses, dogs, humans, like this is all this like huge energetic exchange. So like he was posing this question of like, if this energetic law is true, then like what happens when like our heart stops? If we are energy, like then like where does that energy go? Like because obviously like the electrons aren't moving from like to pump our heart anymore. So like then what happens? And like if the energy never ceases, then what? And so like I just thought that was such an interesting thing. And so like am I an energetic specialist? No. Am I curious and like open to learning? Yes.
Yeah. I love that question. And that's a thought I have often. And it's a thought that actually brings me a lot of peace. I recently was in basically a catacomb, and it was a tomb beneath a church in Brno, Czech Republic, in Czechia. And we were surrounded by all these bones that had been stored there for hundreds of years. And I was there with my husband, and he turned to me and he asked me, how do you feel? How do you feel being in this environment? Because it was, darkly lit, and it could easily be a bit spooky. But the interesting feeling I had was one of peace instead of fear or sadness, because there was something, and this is completely off of the topic of being a cowgirl. We're going to get back to there, being a horsewoman. But you really made me think of this moment where I felt such peace that we are not our bodies, that our energy isn't there with our bones. And I felt this peace and freedom of these people that I don't necessarily feel when I'm in a graveyard, right? That does feel, I almost feel claustrophobic being in a graveyard. And it was an interesting thought for me that actually in this area, where the remains were there, but it felt like their energy was free. It felt like their energy had kind of moved on and passed to somewhere else. And so when you ask that question, what happens? It really makes me think of that moment. And I did feel that there was forward motion of energy, and that brought me much peace, being a neurologist, working with people who have end of life disorders, people who have passed away from their conditions, or from simply being the end of their life, the end of their time on this earth, this feeling of the transference of energy and the peace with that.
Yeah. It's almost like, as you're saying that, what comes up for me is that, like, in a graveyard, it's like you are left there, right? Like, you are buried and then you're left there. But like in a catacomb, like there's people going in there. There's like a genuine, and not that you don't get the care at a graveyard, but it's just like different. Like catacombs are like parts of these churches that are like truly cared for. And so like there could be like a something there that's like just feels different because it's like so many years of like caring and for this specific thing. And like I think, you know, the energy that the living people bring into these spaces. And like you probably think about like the catacombs probably had many like religious things that have happened and like rituals where like graveyard rituals aren't as like um probably there. I mean, we have the rituals around burying the dead, but it might not be like the same or something. I don't know how to
Yeah.
explain it because I
It's like
wasn't.
one finite funeral.
Yeah.
And you don't necessarily visit. What if you move away? I always think about that, or the next generation, right? Like it's like, I don't know. And that's it. People are buried, and that's a choice, and that whatever personal choices, we don't want to discredit anyone's personal choice, what they want to do with their remains or their loved ones' remains. But it did bring up some really interesting questions for me. And anytime we have these big conversations about something that really arguably none of us know for sure about, and we're all just
Yeah.
like, wow, what a fascinating thought. You can't help but then think about, okay, so let's say life is finite, right? Let's say this is our time we have here. This is our body. This is our energy. How do we want to spend our energy? And so I want to get back to this idea of it being okay to, in midlife, right? We talked about that, that experience with our health and our mindset being midlife. When we are in midlife, taking stock of where our energy is and deciding, is this how I want to spend my energy in my precious life? And you made a big pivot. And then you also decided to help like-minded women with similar passions do the same. I think we
love what your daughter's doing. She's so inspired. Like how old is she? Like I love that so much.
She is 12. And I think, it just reminds me of you talking about your story about, being on the horse toy and just loving horses from a young age. She's been that way about dogs and animals her whole life. She is so just keyed in to animals and has so much empathy for them. And one of the things that she said, which I think those of us who support wildlife and animals, I think it really resonates, when she raised $9,000 for our local chapter of the Humane Society, the Little Traverse Bay Humane Society, 2 years ago at their gala, because she was actually they were auctioning off the opportunity to name characters in her fourth book, Shelter Dogs, after their own pets. So they got to choose a namesake, one of the chapters. And she raised $9,000 for them in a matter of a minute's time, because people were so generous and supportive of her project. 2 families each, they bid $4,500. So she sold it twice. And I remember when she was on stage and they asked her to speak, she was 10 at the time. And they asked her, why are you doing this? And she, to summarize what she says, to paraphrase, it was essentially that, rescue dogs don't have a voice. We have to be their voices. We have to stand up for them. We have to help them. And it really ties into what you said about wild horses, because I think it is really easy to kind of have this black and white thinking and think like, well, let them be wild. But the reality is wilderness is not wilderness anymore, because we have altered wilderness so much that then a natural side effect of that is animals will need us, if we're doing the right thing, to step in appropriate ways. That's going to be different depending upon the species and the area of the country and the world. But we have created some issues that require our intervention. And so I think that's really important, that if we feel called to be a part of helping relieve suffering, of helping make things better in these circumstances that are really man-made but affecting animals, what a beautiful way to spend your energy and your time if that's your calling. So I'm so inspired by you and the work that you're doing.
Yeah, well, same for you. And like, tell your little girl that she has a supporter here. I'm so excited to hear about her work. Like, that's just, I hope she keeps going and she doesn't let anybody stop her, because I think in, and you probably have experienced this even more than I did, but marine biology is, there are tons of women. It is like made up of like probably 90%. I don't know what the exact percentage is, but like just hypothetically, it is like 90% women, 10% men. But at the leadership roles, do you know who's at the top of every board? Who is like the professor of the year? Who is XYZ? Is always men. So like those 10% of guys are getting the money, are getting the ideas. And like, it is so hard unless women support each other and are there for each other. And in marine biology, there's like a little pod of guys. I'll call them a pod, like orcas. There's a little pod of guys, and they just support each other, and they take each other everywhere, and they go on like the coolest trips, and like they go on these cruises where they bring citizen scientists, and they spend thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars and like help them build up their research programs. And women aren't doing that for each other. And that's another reason why I decided to leave marine biology, is because people are like, these are my whales. I've been studying them for 20 years. Who do you think you are, coming in trying to write a proposal to study my whales? And like, they just, I've sat in rooms where scientists are screaming at each other. And it's like, this is just ridiculous. This is not why I got into it. And so like, even though I talk very highly of it, there's like a dark side to it. And if your little girl's going to go into this, like, I hope she goes into it with like everything she's got, because you got to get gritty when you get in there.
For sure. Well, she's like you and I. She has a lot of likeness in that sense of, tell her what she can't do. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
Yeah,
That's
right.
like you said, that's the spark. That's the thing that will ignite. She'll take all of the sticks you throw at her, and she's going to make a bonfire. So I'm not worried. She's so inspired. And I think that, again, so feeling so aligned with you and your mission and how you help women by encouraging them to lean into the things that they're already passionate about. When you're doing things for the quote unquote right reasons, when you're doing things because you feel passionate, you feel you're on your path, you do have a spark and you're unstoppable. If you are questioning yourself and looking outward constantly, I think it's time potentially to look inward and even think like, is this my passion? Is this my nervous system telling me I need to tweak this or pivot altogether, right? These are like little signs that we're getting that, who am I doing this for and why? And like you said, when you realize like, I'm sitting at this table, but I actually don't think this is my table. It's okay. Even if you've worked in a field for a long time, you've worked really hard, you've networked, you've done all the things right. It's okay to say, you know what? This isn't my seat anymore. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. I'm going to go find the next table, because none of us were meant to sit at the same table for all eternity.
Yeah. And that is so true. That is so true. And Yeah, and when you do look up and you see like those people who are taking the flame off of your candle, like you said before, like that that's like 100% not your people. And that there's like one thing that like I've always, this is like my biggest red flag when I'm like interacting with people. And the moment that I hear this, this is like literally, I'm probably not going to interact with you anymore, is like when people tell me they're jealous of me. Like, I'm
Mm.
jealous of you. And like women will say that to each other a lot. Like, I'm jealous of you. But like the thing is that means you don't believe you can have it. That means you
Mm.
don't believe you can have it. And that means you're going to take out my light and like you're going to suck my energy. And the minute I hear that, I just like shut down and start moving the other way because it's not worth my time. Like I can't change that person. They've already like made that thought. They've already
Yeah.
voiced that thought. And like that's the same thing on my social media. So like I have a
Mm.
community of women that will share. Like they will share profound stories. Like if I make the right post, I will get so much traction and it's like women sharing deeply held stories about their horses and about what's happened. And I had a guy come on and he's like, I have never been on another page on Facebook that has people sharing like this. And so these profound stories, and everybody's nice to each other. Everybody here is like nice and kind. And the thing is like when people come to my pages, if you're having a bad day and you are deciding like you don't like something about whatever and you decide to vocalize it, you no longer get to play the game. You are done. You are blocked. You are deleted. And like, that's the thing that I tell even the women that I work with, like, this is your community to steward. You get to build this however you
Mm.
want. And this isn't vocally free things in your community. Like you have to set those boundaries and set those rules. And I'm really passionate about making sure that every woman who gets on there gets to only see stuff that makes her encouraged to share more. And like if you see one little negative nugget, that's just going to bring you down. You're done.
Mm.
You're done playing the game. You can go play the game on someone else's page or your own, but like you can't play here. And so as a business owner, I have had to block and delete more people than I've even wanted to. But
Mm.
that's how I work it. I don't know how you work those things, but I feel really strongly about that.
Yeah, absolutely. If something is inappropriate, it disappears. There's a difference between respectful discourse and um, something that's not constructive or helpful. Um, you know, we're very intentional about our tone as well, and we're
Yeah.
creating the environment, right? And we have to
Yeah.
curate the environment. And when you're in a space that inspires you, that is doing that, a lot of us, myself included, up until about 5 years ago, that would have been shocking to me. I would have been the person like, you're allowed to do that? Like you're allowed to say, I don't like how you're treating me, so I'm not going to engage with you.
Yeah.
Because as women, and I can tell you as a physician, and the training you go through, and then what it means to practice medicine, and in this culture that is very much like a ratings culture now of how we interact with our physician rather than a lifetime relationship. It's what's the report card for the physician today, and get ding and things like that.
Yeah.
And maybe you say the parking was hard, so then that will also decrease the physician's reimbursement. All this stuff that kind of puts dings in your armor. And I think when you're building your own community and you want to build something really great and vulnerable and beautiful and that's growth focused, you can't grow inside armor.
Yeah.
Right. And so I'm going to create a community where we're growing resilience, where we can have discussions and discourse, but where we don't feel like we need to wear armor because we've had to do that for long enough, and we're creating something different here.
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's exactly right. Like just yeah. And like even for me, like it even goes a little bit deeper. Like even it's kind of going back to the thing where like, don't tell another woman what to do. Like if she shares her story, you don't need to come in and give your advice on her story. Like don't advise her on, that's her story, like period. So like I even kind of like look at things like that. Like you have a right to share your story in the way that it happened, and I'm not here to tell you go get back on the horse, right? Like a lot of people are like, you got bucked off. And it's like an old philosophy of like, if you got bucked off, go get right back on. But like, sometimes that's not the best thing for anybody to get back on, like right at that. Maybe you need some time to calm down or whatever it is. But like, do get back on because it's so fun. But like, you know, every woman has her own story, and it's okay. Like when you're on my page, it is okay to share your story, and I want you to feel fully seen, fully be able to be vulnerable, and just like, no, you're not going to just get a bunch of advice on like what to do next. Like you're literally like, you're allowed to just just share,
Mhm.
and no
And be
explanation.
heard.
Yeah.
Yeah, and be heard.
Yeah.
We need to be heard. I think
Yeah.
that's something that can be missing on social media. But I think for many of us, it's still healing to just hear the stories, because again, it's when we hear someone sharing their stories vulnerably, putting their armor down, it's data. And we're thinking, oh, that was brave. I wonder if I could try doing that. And then the next thing you know, you're starting to, in safe spaces, exercise that. And then maybe you are going to get back on the horse, but you can only get back on the horse when you have the tools to do it and you feel ready. And being empowered by other women through their storytelling and just the community support is a great way to get there.
Yeah, it's been one of the best parts of making this business, really, is just all of the stories. And it's incredible because each time that a woman shares their story, and I'm sure like even on your podcast, like that's a gift, right? That's their gift being given to, and I had seen a thing, read it, and I don't know who said this or whatever, but it's really sticking with me this week. So I'm just going to say it again. But like, the gift that you've been given is not for you. Your gift is like to share. Your gift is for someone else, because like you have a gift and you're giving it to me by allowing me to be on your podcast and have this really amazing conversation with you. And my gift is not to keep it inside. It's to, help horsewomen launch their bold ideas and like really make some headway and like clear out any roadblocks that are happening for them. And like, that's the gift. And I can't use my gift on me, and you can't use your gift on you. And like, I think that's like why storytelling is so important, because it gives that pathway to do it. And I think that's one of the most beautiful things that has happened in my business since I've started it. And it's just been so meaningful to me.
So I'm so grateful to you for sharing a spark with me today and allowing me to share it with our community. It means the world. And I'm so grateful to be connected with you. I love your story. I could talk to you for hours about all of the different things that you've done. I encourage our listeners to follow you on Instagram, which is where I found you, and your inspiring shorts that are showing your journey. I love the diary, the broken leg diary. And I liked the verbiage. You're a scientist. And I liked, it felt very intentional. I recently heard someone I also follow on Instagram that I absolutely adore. And they said, do you have advice for 40-year-old women? No, you don't. You know what I mean? Because like, we don't need advice. We need to get out of our own way, and for other people and things to get out of our way so that we can get on our path and build, right? That's what we need. And that's one thing I love about how you shared your journey with your broken leg and the broken leg diary and your trajectory is you weren't telling people what to do. You were showing them your journey. It was a diary. And I think that's such an impactful way that storytelling can be transformative, not only for the storyteller, but for the people who are hearing the stories. And it can inspire inspire them. We often as scientists want to instruct. When we go to medical school, we're like, okay, I'm going to go in the room and I'm going to tell them what to do because I know everything, but they're the expert in them. I'm not. No matter what an expert I am in the human body, I'm not the expert in this person and their goals and their life and what they want. And so I need to be a good listener. And my job is to walk beside someone and help empower them to live their happiest, healthiest future, not to tell them how to do it. So I love your approach. I encourage everyone to follow you on Instagram and on YouTube. And there's something, even just the visual of riding a horse, it's just so freeing. And it really aligns with this idea of leaning into your passion and the life that you really want and the path you want to be on. Because again, as someone who I've ridden horses before, but I'm certainly not an expert in it or experienced, there's some fear there. But once you have the tools and once you're on the horse, even after an injury, as you've mentioned before with your broken leg, when you decide that's what you want to do and you do it, just the liberation that even just the visual brings is so inspiring. Thank you so much, Alicia, for being on the show. Everyone, go follow Alicia, as we said, online. Go to her website. We'll have all the information in the show notes as well. We appreciate your insights and you sharing your story so generously with us. And we also want to say thank you to our storytellers. We appreciate you too. And we ask that if you haven't already, that you subscribe to the show and let us know what topics or episodes you like the most so that we can bring more inspiring stories for you like we had with Alicia here today. Alicia, thank you so much again. As always, storytellers, until next time, stay safe and take care. I'll talk to you soon.